You speak. Welcome to the May 9th, 2022 meeting of the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission. Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme.
Present.
Mr. Screbutenis.
Here.
Mr. Khan.
Here.
Mr. McPartlin.
Here.
Mr. Darpino.
Here.
Ms. Shenfield.
Here.
Ms. Gold.
Present.
Ms. Strang.
Here.
Chairman Walsh.
Here. Thank you. We have the approval of the minutes from the April 25th, 2022 meeting. Can I have a motion for approval of those minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. D'Arpino for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Khan. And discussion. I got just one minor item on line 79. This is regarding Chase Bank. Ms. Robertson also discussed requiring the applicant, says, to repaint crosswalks. Is there going to be a new crosswalk? So it's a paint anew and repaint the old? Is that what it should say? Or is it repaint them all the old ones?
I might have to listen to that again. I definitely know that we were talking about painting the crosswalk between the two multi-use paths, but I believe Ms. Shenfeld brought up potentially another crosswalk that need to be repainted.
Yeah. So I think it should say that to possibly paint a new and repaint the old.
Okay, yeah.
If you say that, we can't go wrong, right?
Mhm.
And it's still not approved or whatever. So we could just change to paint of repaint crosswalks. We could say possibly paint new crosswalks and repaint the old crosswalks. All right. And that's all I have. Does anybody else have any questions or comments on the minutes? No. Can I have, let's see, a motion to, I'm going to move that we modify the minutes to change those words. We'll do it formally. Can I have a second on that?
I'll second
A
it.
second by Mr. D'Arpino. All those in favor of modifying the minutes as I just suggested, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, hearing none opposed, we have some modified minutes. Hearing no other comments, we'll vote on the minutes as modified. All those in favor of approval of the minutes as modified, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none opposed, the minutes are slightly modified and all set. All right, and that brings us to public hearings, which we have no public hearings tonight, and therefore, we're almost privilege of the floor is next, if you're here for privilege of the floor. So you have no public hearing, so privilege of the floor is next. I assume that you would be here for that. So anyone wishing to be heard regarding privilege of the floors, please come to the microphone. State your name and address for the record. Make sure the microphone's turned on and that we can catch you on tape and hear what you have to say, okay?
Sure.
Okay, and thank you.
Hi, I'm Patricia Doyle, and
I'm Matthew Wood, and I live at 2279 Grand Boulevard, Niskayuna.
Okay,
we're here to discuss a project that was approved for 2275 Grand Boulevard. I have some handouts. Would you guys mind if I?
yeah,
gave you
but I
handouts?
just got to have one
I
comment.
think I have 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, no, and there's no problem. But the question is we did not approve any project at 2227.
I'm aware of that.
Okay,
I know that you guys
okay.
didn't, it didn't go through the planning board,
Okay.
but I just want to
Okay.
say that I think.
I just wanted to make that
probably-
clear that we didn't, but we'll obviously listen to anything you have to say.
Right,
Okay,
sure.
thank you.
So, I just have.
I don't think so.
Yeah, we don't.
handouts for everyone. Yeah, I think I-
If not, we
We
can
can
always
share.
get copies or we can share.
I'll
so-
share it, Mr. Scributenis.
Yep.
We share. And then you take it. It's okay.
No.
So I
None of
do
us
I have
think
5
we
minutes?
You,
Well,
I'll try to keep.
rule of
it
thumb's
short. I
5, so,
timed it,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
I'm sorry. You need it? Okay. So this is,
You just make sure you get to the microphone though, because we need to speak from the microphone, please.
I'm not sure where to put this.
Yeah, like I said, we've got copies and we can share, so.
Great.
All right, thank you.
So the project at 2275 Grand Boulevard was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals on April 27th, 2022. It is at the W. Garner B. Home on Grand Boulevard in Niskayuna. It's the house, I did a mock-up of the space that it will take up, And I base this on the dimensions of our house, which our house height is the White House to the right in the picture. The height of our house is 28 feet. So it's not exact, but it's just to get a feel for what the project is actually going to look like. The width of the space between the house on 2275 and the fence is 47 feet. And this house is 38 feet, which leaves 4 feet between the garage and the house at 2275 Grand Boulevard, and 5 feet on the other side to the fence. So it's a very big house. And we think it's rather large to be considered a garage.
If you look real close, it's a little bit dark, but the first floor of our house actually ends like right where that red line is on the right. That's how close it is. It's not where the tall part of our house is.
I got you.
Right.
Yep.
So I think that this project should be reviewed by the planning board and also the historical board. If you look at the second page, I'm on the second page, the dimensions that were stated are width of 28 feet, as we just said, the depth, 38 feet, sorry, the width of 38 feet, the depth of 28 feet, the height is 26 feet, which is very large for a garage. It's, but it's allowed supposedly up to be 35 feet is allowed, and it might turn into that. I don't, but that's not the plan. So I'd like to discuss with you why I believe this project should go to the planning board due to size, use, and history. So we're on the third page now. The size of the project. It's, again, 28 feet by 38 feet footprint. That is, if you just multiply that and for both floors, that would be a 2,128 square foot space, which is a very large. A lot of houses in town are not that size. That's for both floors. There's 5 feet of space between the right side of the house and the property line. There's 4 feet of space between the left side of the house and the W. Garner B house. The depth is 28 feet. So, and the height is 26 feet or more. The structure is as tall as the adjacent houses, and it may be up to 35 feet. If that's what was said, that is the allowed height. So it's oversized and should be reviewed by the planning board for that reason. That is my first point. So use. We know that a planned use of this is a commercial garage and an apartment. I'm not sure about the apartment as being an approved use, but I'm sure that commercial garage is not an approved use for this area. So for that reason, it should be reviewed by the planning board. We know this because Mr. Guest told my husband, Matthew Wood.
Told me last year around this time that he's starting an excavation business.
You have to.
Told me last year around this time that he's starting an excavation business. And I would get on a polygraph. I mean, I'm telling the truth.
And he also has a front loader.
Last fall, he bought a brand new front loader. I'm not a
I
big
think you
equipment
have
guy.
to
It's got a bucket in the front. I'm not a big equipment guy. It's got a bucket in the front. It's got the digging claw in the back. Brand new shiny, and all the attachments, different attachments.
The second thing I want to say about the, Mr. Guest did mention at the zoning board meeting of appeals, a quote that I have in the appendix, which I'll read to you guys, or maybe we should just go to the appendix now because I'm talking about it now. So there's, he said, I'm in the process, and I'm not in love with it, of trying to buy a vacant lot from the city of Schenectady to see if I can put up a garage up there. My wife is dead set against it for fear that things will be stolen outside my purview. But if I'm going to build, I'm going to build something that's going to accommodate everything that I can possibly think of. So those comments are not comments that someone who's just building a garage for their vehicles. You wouldn't build a garage in the city of Schenectady to house your cars, because then you'd have to walk back from the city of Schenectady to to home. So that, those two items are things, again, that we think that the planning board should review this project. And let's go back to, there's a page, historical character. The historical character of the neighborhood would be compromised with this structure. It is the historical W.B. Garner House at 2275 Grand Boulevard. It's also in a prominent location on Grand Boulevard. The project should be reviewed by the historical board for that reason. So in conclusion, due to size, use, and the historical character issues, the project approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals on April 27, 2022 should be reviewed by the Planning Board and the Historical Board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Usually you don't comment during privileged floor. I just state that what I can tell you is that ZBA cases do get referred to the Architectural Review Board, which is, I guess, a subsidiary of this board. Mr. DiArpino is on that board, so from a...
We'd like to make a point. Mr. DiArpino should probably recuse himself because he did make a letter of support for Mr. Guest. And he also said something I found puzzling. He said that Mr. Guest's car's lights shine into his house, and we live right across the street. We went across the street, and there is no view at all of Mr. Guest's driveway or cars from the front of Mr. DiArpino's house.
Okay, there's other people on the Architectural Review Board, and
That would be great.
and it will be going to the Architectural Review Board, is my understanding.
Great.
And that's all I can tell you. Okay?
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Well, there's nobody else here for privilege of the floor. Is there anybody else online that would wish to speak? And, or Laura, do we have any emails or letters to read into the record?
I didn't receive any emails. I'm not sure about everybody online though.
Anybody online wishing to speak? Okay, hearing or seeing no one, I'm going to close privilege of the floor. We have no unfinished business tonight and no new business tonight, so we're going to go right to our discussion items, which we have several tonight. First thing up for discussion is 2341 Knott Street East, Shoprite Plaza, site plan application for placing a Chase Bank ATM machine in the parking lot. Who do we have online tonight? Was it Mr. Miller potentially, or who? Do we have anybody online from Chase Bank? I see Mr. Riley and Mr. Quinn.
Yes, sir.
Next
Mr.
question,
Riley
yes.
is on, and I believe Chris Quinn as well.
Okay. All right, Mr.
This is Chris Quinn. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We have project lead, Mr.
Thank you.
Scribia Tennis, but what I thought we'd do is, since you're both online, I'm sure you want to give us an update where you stand and let us know what's going on. How's that? So I'll turn it over to whoever is going to speak.
We do, and yeah, Chris, do you want me to just kind of put the revised drawings up and walk them through first?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me see if I can share my screen here.
And there you go. All right. You can see
Okay.
the drawings, Tom.
Yes, excellent. So this is, there we go. So this is the plan set that we had presented to the town at the meeting prior to the last. I believe that was on April 11th. We received some feedback relative to our design. So I'm just gonna, and please stop and interrupt if you have any questions at any point. I'm just gonna refresh everybody's memory from what we had originally presented and some of the feedback that was requested, and then I want to provide a brief update on our progress in meeting those items. And that would be pretty much the balance of what we have prepared to present, but also we're hoping that we'd have some discussion associated with that. So with that being said, and sort of the premise on here, let me see if I can move this up here. So Zoning in over here on the lower left-hand corner of our site plan, the area of our proposed site is outlined in the dashed red line here. This is a proposed drive-up ATM facility in an underutilized portion of this parking lot here at the Shoprite Plaza. We're following the existing traffic flow within the parking lot in order to direct traffic from the main entry and exit points into the shopping center, so that we have safe path of travel here as well. We're planning to pull our electric service from options that have been identified already in the area. So that's already and is also identified in some of the options that are available here in this detail. But I'll back out again here a little bit and drop us down to an existing conditions here. So part of the discussion has been around the consumption of 8 parking stalls that we're going to consume in order to deliver this drive-up ATM facility. So that's illustrated on the left-hand side of the screen. The dashed lines are the parking stalls that are impacted. We've shown some other markings here that represent some of the elements that we'll be constructing. Those elements are detailed over here on the right-hand side. So not to provide too much detail here, but I think knows about ATM machines and how they're used as a drive-up. So we enter it from the bottom here into it. We've got a height deterrent so that we don't have vehicles that can't fit beneath the canopy structure that we have to protect the ATM. We have a light pole that we need in order to maintain minimum standards for safety and security of our customers. On the exit side, we have our electric facility that's just a dual panel and meter pedestal that provides that power that will deliver to this site. We come on the outside of this exiting side where we've got some signage to stop our folks before departing the facility and then deterring others from turning in from that portion of this incorrectly. We're also directing traffic to go to the right in order to maintain the traffic flow here as well. So this is a portion where we're hoping to present new information to you folks here this evening in response to the feedback that we received in our last presentation. The elements of our ATM facility here, we've are proposing now in more muted color tones in order to comply with local code regulations. So that incurs changing the color of the canopy structure from Chase's normal blue tones into this what we're going to call a light nickel gray coloring. That's the same color that the ATM machine comes standardly in addition to the millbank pedestal, which is the element on the right-hand side here where my cursor is moving around here. We've changed the bollards that are here for protection from the Chase blue to the gray color here that you're seeing as well. And we've done the same for the vehicle height deterrent structure that we have on the entry side of our ATM facility to also comply with those regulations. So the only elements that have coloring that remain in our proposal are those associated with the signage and branding on this facility. So that's on one of the canopy legs where we have Chase lettering with their blue octagon logo, in addition to the logo structure that's on the canopy of the canopy structure for this facility. These are planned to be backlit currently, and that would be the entirety of the signage that we are proposing here. I did miss one element here. There's a security gate that goes in front of the ATM. That's normally the Chase blue. It's also going to be in the nickel color that we mentioned in reviewing all of these elements. These are obviously our illustrations for our elevations here in our formal CD documents. You know, the actual facility itself, we would obviously try to provide some comparison photos or renderings if that would help facilitate your understanding of the changes in our colors. That could be supplemental information that we would submit to you in addition to this if you so choose to see something more of a pictorial look on this, if you will. Basically, other than that, the CD set that we were proposing in our last review is unchanged. We've changed some of the, this is our sectional detail, so obviously the VHD is detailed there as well, and the coloring change applicable is also included, down to our other elements, including the electrical on this set. So just a couple of comments I wanted to make in response to comments that we took from our last discussion with this body, that we would also have discussions with the landlord here so that they would include repainting the striping for parking spaces both in front of and behind of the shopping center development. So that's something that we've had discussions with the landlord about, and they have agreed to, in principle, would want to coordinate those activities in conjunction with the striping for our facility when it's constructed. But that being said, I heard some discussion earlier about some specifics associated with that. Obviously, we'd need to nail those specifics down in terms of crosswalks or other specific needs that your body is requiring. But in principle, we believe that we will be able to add those comments to our drawings in order to comply with that feedback that we received. We also received some feedback about the repair status of the paving in the lot, in particular some potholes and other things that needed repair. Again, with some latitude to gather some cost information about what's involved in doing that. The landlord has also agreed to consider that and comply with that comment that was fed back to us. That left us with one other comment that was in regard to the Nisqually Tree Council and revising our site plan to make sure that we replace any plantings that may have perished for various number of reasons and get any feedback they might have on the landscape, in particular near our site, the ATM development. I had a meeting with the landlord and their representatives last week. They've agreed in principle to set up a meeting with the Nisqually Tree Council so we could review those details. And again, those would then be in process. And assuming we could come to an amenable conclusion to that discussion, we would hope to be positive in our response to those comments as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Riley.
So, Mr. Chairman, I went to go examine the location, just a few observations, which I know came up earlier.
Mr. Scrivett, you mind just pulling that microphone
sure.
forward, please? Thank you.
As I think Laura noted at an earlier meeting, there is some mature trees on the verge into the roadway that's the eastern edge that were cut that need to be replaced. The lot, of course, is in terrible condition that really does need to be repaved. Your ATM will be of little use with the condition that it's in currently. I'd like to make a note to the board that there are currently 6 downward Cobra lamps in that pad, along with an illumination. So we want to probe a little bit more about the light source and what the impact will be across the way. So there's existing lights, and there's going to be obviously an increased addition of lighting from the ATM itself. So just 2 points I want to make to the applicant. I think I would like to see a rendering of the ATM visually, what it looks from, if I'm standing at the sidewalk in front of the Knott Street apartments across the way. I want to see what that looks like. There's an elevation, and I just want to see where that projects and how that would look to to a tenant that would exit the building. And I'd also like to see an elevation perspective if you're a traveler heading, that would be eastbound, what that would look like from the lot, because you'll be able to see it. So just those two renderings, I think would be helpful to get a little feel for it. I'm most concerned what the impact this will have across the street on a brand new multifamily project, and what the light spillage will be. So just those items would be helpful for the board to just kind of come to terms with those issues. Just one other point. I want to just make a point to bring back to the landlord. The monument sign is largely obscured, particularly heading west. So that you really do need to pay some attention to landscaping on that site. I think landscaping all around needs to be improved and kind of re-examined, because it's in tough shape, that corner. Just a quick summary. I'd like to see a couple of renderings across the street, heading eastbound, and just some further discussions with the landlord about replacing those 3 lost mature trees, and potentially installing some landscaping on the verge that's on the edge of Knott Street, because I think that may be necessarily, but after we get a look at the renderings. Is that okay, Mr. Chairman?
That's good. And I think one other thing I had, I think Mr. Riley, you mentioned a picture, so you get a better feel for the colors versus that drawing that, basically, is say 17% gray or whatever you want to call it, So it'd be nice to see, be nice to see a picture of what the gray is. So actually, it seems, the drawing, which, obviously isn't a good way to show it. It seems pretty bland from there, with all the gray. I know that we're trying to keep things neutral colors and to go along with the shopping mall. So obviously whatever the board thinks here about that. I'm glad, and thank you for, listening to us and looking at the Town Center Overlay District Code and trying to come in compliance. We do appreciate that. I think it's just a matter of working out some details. The other thing I guess I would add is that, this project comes forward on this site, so it gives us an opportunity, because if maintenance is lacking, like the potholes, the restriping, here's an opportunity, as you can understand, for the town to make sure that the place is taken care of also, along with, this application. And that's why we're talking about those things. Okay. So any thoughts from the board? Any other comments, either virtual or here? Anybody?
I'd just like to say that I think it's very, very important for every applicant that's bringing a project like this before the board for us to see, and I think I mentioned before, actual renderings, colored renderings, because you're essentially putting something in the middle of a residential neighborhood. There's residential all around there, and I think it's very important to see the different views and the different scales and, what you're going to see from coming. So I totally agree with those, but I think those should have totally been brought to begin with. I think it's very important.
Yeah, well, the colors changed since, last time, so that's why we're asking, and the applicant mentioned it, they'd have some photos, so now's the time, I guess, so we can keep moving this along. And the other concern that was mentioned, and I think it was brought up by the planning office also, is the light spillage. I know your photometric data has been supplied. I don't know if the planning office had an opportunity to really analyze it, or whether we're going to have a town designated engineer or somebody, or a town engineer take a look at it. Well, obviously you like to have these things well lit because, for safety and, and having the customer feel secure. But we also want to balance it so that it doesn't become an eyesore, as Mr. Scribius Tennis said, with the apartment complex or apartment building that was just in the condos that are across the street. We don't want to have, have it an eyesore, too much light spillage. I think you've provided the data. In fact, I know you've provided the data. It was included in our packet. We just need to have probably someone else to take a look at it. Is that the typical foot candles that you see in distances for any of your projects? Is that the norm?
It is. In fact, it's a representation for this actual project. So a couple of comments associated with that. So, we try to utilize full cutoff fixtures in order to, minimize the light bleed outside of our area. We do have some specific safety concerns to which some standards have been established in support of that. For our customers. So we're trying to maintain a minimum of 2 foot candela throughout our lease space, which is in fact the entire space for the ATM drive up. So that's just been a security standard that Chase has established, with lots and lots of experience in these situations, through an abundance of caution and safety, an overall perspective. So, that's what we're representing here in order to try to maintain that. And what you're seeing, with the light spread and distribution. I know this is at a level that you can't see a lot of great detail, but it's there for those that are the folks that might review this more formally for you, and we can supplement that information for you as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
You're
I'm sure you can understand like I said, the new apartment building across the street, and last thing I want to do is have light spillage. Open up, look out their front window at night,
Absolutely.
and have an annoying light, just focus right on you. You know how that goes. It drives you crazy.
Yep, exactly. We've been in a lot of these situations, so we make every effort to minimize that could ever happen.
And obviously, the shrubbery or the plantings will also help that out too. So.
I'm sorry, just one clarification. I don't think I saw a legend describing it, but the foot candles at the boundary of the property that gets down to about 0.3, is that an existing condition, or is that still influenced by the higher foot candles in the vicinity of the ATM?
Chris, do you know if we're mixing in the ambient with this, or is this just solely our the what's coming from our site?
That's just the fixture that we're adding. And I don't believe we have, I'm focused on it right now, but I don't believe we have anything beyond a foot candle on the perimeter. In fact, most of it is zero-ish, 0.2. So the numbers are pretty low at the perimeter, but we have not included the existing fixtures in this calculation.
Okay, so everything you're showing here is going to be an addition onto whatever is there already.
Correct, but the reason why we're adding is that there was not efficient. We had low lighting levels.
Understood.
Had the lighting levels.
ATM, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So any thoughts from the board on the latest proposal, at least the colorings that were suggested? I guess was platinum or Greg, did you say platinum?
It's a light nickel.
A light nickel.
I mean, I think a photo would be good, but the applicant did go in the right direction with having the contrast of the bright blues towards. So
Yep.
hopefully the light nickel is something that's reasonable. I mean, look, for me, the concerns go in the order of trying to maintain the safety of people who'd use the ATM, contrasted against any increased light for our new complex, like has been mentioned before.
Yep.
So maybe we just need to look at that one a little more carefully. And, the parking thing is, it looks like we have a way forward there, right? I'm surprised that 625 is the most reliable number that we have, but that's okay.
It is.
Yeah. It is a small number. It is a much smaller number compared to what some of the original numbers were
Yeah.
suggesting, but that would mean that waiver sits within the planning boards.
Yeah, and actually the 625 is a conservative way to look at that. That's what the town board approved, but I believe that during later kind of iterations, the planning board brought it down to like 601 or something. So we're being conservative by
Okay.
sticking to the 625.
Anything else, Mr. Khan?
No, so there's one thing. So the 1 foot waiver is still required for the light. I'm not sure if I heard in the dialogue
Yeah.
tonight that we were changing.
Yeah, last meeting you mentioned you were just going to drop it 1 foot to come into compliance. I'm not sure if that's still the plan or not.
That's correct. Yes, that's the plan.
Yeah, so the parking is okay, going to come into compliance with the light pole. We're okay with LED, just that our code is old and identifies metal halide. And the signage was, something we just need to look at. I mean, it's the corporate colors, and usually we're pretty flexible with corporate logos because we respect, we respect that because that's their company. So really, I think one thing it boils down is we're happy with the the renderings that are shown, the color seems reasonable, and we have somebody take a look at the photometric data just to make sure that, we satisfy our concern that we don't have spillage for the neighborhood, houses across the street. Does that summarize it?
We just to reiterate, just the visual rendering of what it would look like from the apartment building and the eastern looking east.
Got that? Yes.
Yeah, so I think if we get a little bit of additional information, the pictures, and Laura, I don't know if the plan is to have internal or have somebody take a look at the photometric data or not, or,
Yeah, so our recommendation guideline for a commercial property is 0.5 foot candles. The majority of the proposed lighting, although it doesn't include the existing, so they'd have to do that, is compliant. But right at that corner, it's a little bit high. So that may be a reason to do what Mr. Scrubutanis is suggesting, like do a rendering and then take a look at where the lighting is beyond our guidelines, which is 0.5. There's a couple places where it's 0.7, 0.9, and it's minimal. So you may be able to reduce that with some landscaping. And that's what you're saying, Mr. Scrubutanis, right? So when you're looking at that, look at it as you've got it, and then if you can reduce it, with landscaping, so then you've got safety and you're screening it to the residential properties. But it can't be like tiny landscaping that's going to screen the residential properties in 20 years. Like it's going to have to be substantial enough, whatever you plant, that it's going to affect the foot candles once it's planted.
Mr. Riley?
So a couple of things on that. The light pole, we're going to reduce that by 1 foot. So that's going to tighten up our measurements at our outer boundaries all by itself. So that should have a positive impact on that. We definitely want to have a discussion about, landscaping and screening and how that might help to achieve some of these goals, because we also do have some concerns about, having opportunities for spaces where people can, approach concealed customers working or using the site, I should say. So we want to maintain, that balance, between, having, easy places where folks could hide and obscure themselves, in favor of some screening that would help, reduce some of the light bleed here. We could also look into some of that shielding that I mentioned in order to minimize some of that as well. So we just, mechanically speaking, prevented from bleeding outside of the property lines for sure. But, even the perimeters of our site can be tightened up a bit more.
Okay. Now, with what you heard tonight, we got like a 2-week turnaround. Is this something you plan on getting back to us and next meeting, reviewing the data that we're asking for and the renderings and the pictures, color renderings and pictures and so on and so forth? Is that something you can have within the next 2 weeks and keep this moving for you?
I think some of the visual tools we can provide, something that I'm going to have to take an action in order to identify a timeline with is, finalizing some of those landscaping details, especially if we're going to need to seek, the input of the tree council and some of those advisory bodies. And maybe that's one of the questions I'm hoping to get a bit more specific guidance from you on. What's the next step in order to determine, what needs to be replaced that's existing today from the previous comment, and who should we speak with to determine and have a conversation about some of the specific shielding landscape comments that we've also received.
So that person would be me, Laura, the town planner. The tree council has a meeting this Thursday, so we could try and set up a walkthrough with whoever the landlord would want to designate to us to walk through the site. I know I emailed one of the representatives of the landlord today the existing landscaping plan that we had in our packet. So I think that we could do a pretty quick turnaround of doing a walkthrough of the site and identify. I mean, it's not the perfect time of year, but I think most of us kind of know where the dead trees are. Some of them already got taken down. So we can go through the site with, the person of your choosing and give them good guidance within that 2 weeks. So I don't think the tree council would necessarily be a delay on that, but But yeah, you guys could just reach out to me and we can
Yeah.
schedule something.
So Laura, would it be like just a list, or a map that's marked up to show the ones to be replaced? or
Yeah.
the plantings?
I mean, a walkthrough might be good because to Mr. Scrampotanis's point, like there's been a lack of maintenance on the landscaping for some time. Like, and it's not just in particular phase 2. Like we're addressing it now because they're asking for this additional benefit. They're asking for a reduction in parking spaces. They're affecting, the overall PUD. So we're taking a close look at how it's been managed. But after this, like the next discussion then goes to the front and then goes to the middle because I mean, it's, I think, kind of a lack of maintenance for the entire plaza that needs to be addressed. But I don't mind meeting this phase now because this is where we're at and we're talking to these people. I will, to be fair and true to all people, then go to the middle phase and then go to the first phase. I mean, it all needs to be addressed. But there's places where trees have been taken down and then there's places where it's scruffy and they should look at the sign. So I certainly don't mind doing a walkthrough with anybody from the tree council that can come to kind of point out things that need to be maintained to them.
So you could have something written down for the applicant, a week and a half or something like that.
Mhm.
And we can try to keep it moving forward for you. I know that's important to you, but if you get us the information, we could always, touch base at the next meeting where we stand on everything. If people are, if the board is happy with the colors and with what we see from the renderings and we, the foot candles are dropped at the boundary to come in compliance, I think we can get there pretty quickly, with an approval is my assumption.
And I guess for completeness, Laura, and we brought this up, whatever the upgrades need to be in terms of striping and pothole filling, et cetera. I mean, we need to ensure that those happen.
Agreed.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully you have enough negotiations with the landlord that we could get those done.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, those are all reasonable things. It's just maintenance and it's going to help benefit, the Chase Bank drive-through when everything's fixed. So just something that needs to happen. So.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of folks that are engaged, on our side, Laura, who are ready to, step up for a meeting and support that with, follow on as well. And, both of the landlord's reps. So, if we can just coordinate with you and sort of walk through the process to make sure we cover all these various bases, that gives me a point of contact so we can get the right people together.
Okay. All right. So we got some open items, right? Tree council, some feedback for the applicant.
Yeah.
Yep. Some, the renderings and pictures, so we have a better feel for the color, the nickel. Updating the lighting after you drop the 1 foot and whether that impacts the foot candles at the border. And I think we get those things kind of move those along. I think we're getting closer. Does that sound reasonable? That everybody? Is there something I missed?
No, that's reasonable for us. If we have to do some fine tuning on what we can produce and when, we'll communicate back to you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm still interested in any comments from the police department because I think there is a balancing to be done between screening and making the people using it safe.
Yep. It's a good comment. And we usually forward things to police and fire, but this one specifically, police, make sure they're aware of it. Okay.
So we haven't done that yet? But
We sent a couple of them over, but I can't remember if we've done this one or not. So I'll double check.
okay.
All right.
I'll be sure to circulate this version of this plan to this body after this meeting.
Okay. Is there any other questions or anything else we need to discuss tonight that I'm missing, or anybody from the board?
No.
Applicant, anything else? No?
No, thanks very much.
Okay, we appreciate it, and
Thank you.
we'll be in contact. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks.
All right, have a good night. Okay, so that's it for, that's it for that that part of Shoprite Plaza. We got a new item tonight.
Starbucks.
And under discussion, that's 2303 Knott Street East, Shoprite Plaza. That's the Starbucks application for renovations and new signage. Do we have anybody online representing Starbucks tonight?
Yes, sir. My name's Daniel Brennan. I handle permits and licenses for Starbucks. Here because we're renovating the existing store over on Knott Street. Basically, we're doing an interior update to the store. no menu changes, but we're trying to improve the look and improve the service as far as the drive-through is concerned. Part of that is going to be updating our signage and relocating some of our drive-through equipment to help better move the drive-through lane along. If I may, share my screen to walk through the plans.
Sure, thank you.
All right. Okay, are you seeing this?
Yes,
All right, perfect. So this is the Starbucks as it's existing. The red is what's being removed or demolished. Please excuse some of the red cloud lines as some of our scope reduced. We were planning originally on that left side where the cloud area is to expand the sidewalk and put in a walk-up pickup window over there. But we've decided to move away from that. And so that's why we have various clouds throughout the presentation. You can see over to the right side here that we have our drive-through menu board and our order screen, our pre-menu board, and our clearance bar. So I'm just going to here's our elevations as they're existing. As previously mentioned, we were going to do a pickup window over here, walk-up pickup window that we're no longer doing. That's why there's a cloud there. And basically, this is just showing that we're going to remove the existing wall signs to be replaced. Here is the new proposed site plan. Let me just kind of zoom in here. What we have is, here's the former location of the drive-through menu board and order screen. And what we're doing is we're trying to move it to get more queue cars in after the order. We found through extensive studies that the sooner people can order, the quicker we can move the drive-through lane along. So in doing this move, we would gain 2 cars to order and stacking, and that should save about 10 to 15 seconds per car in line. And that seems fairly minor, but when you're waiting there, a minute could probably seem like a long time. We're also proposing some new patio furniture outside, just replacing the existing. Let's see. These are just details on the signage, but it's repetitive because I have signage details at the end. So I just want to skip over to the elevations. Here's the elevation side at the top here of our drive-through. We're just looking to put up a drive-through directional sign in the upper corner there. Also, this is the side where you order. This is actually, I believe, facing Knott Street, and it just has Starbucks internally lit letters. Just something a little more cleaner. They're just going to be white letters. This side of the facade faces the plaza. Here's where we're going to do that pickup window. We were also going to do another canopy awning over it, but that got removed as well. So we're just looking to put up another wall sign here that says Starbucks and then the drive-through directional. We're also looking to paint the existing canopies. Right now they're forest green, dark green. We're just looking to paint those matte black, just a sleek look. And this is the main entrance elevation. We're just looking to replace the wall sign with the logo disc of the Starbucks Mermaid. Here's just a floor plan that shows our new seating layout outside. And this is also what the interior would look like when the renovation's complete inside. And we are reworking our coffee service bar. Again, it's all geared toward trying to help the drive-through lane move faster. Since the pandemic, lots of people have been using drive-through lanes. So this is actually a regular practice in most of our stores. We're reworking the drive-through lanes in our coffee bars to help move the drive-through lane as quick as possible. And then here, these are our signage details. So it's a little bit repetitive, but you can see here's the signs that we're removing. The new signs going up. Here's a picture of our new proposed drive-through menu board. And here's a picture of what it would look like, although it would be a 2-panel with a divider in the middle with the canopy over. It's actually basically what's existing there, just being relocated. Here's a pre-menu board, a new clearance bar. These are just some details showing exactly how it's mounted and how it would be lit. Individual letters lit white internally, and on the sides they'd be a black side view. And this is just a detail of what the mermaid would look like over the front door, the entrance door. And here is our directional wall sign. It's just black and white, nice and clean. And I did include, I just scooped up a couple of pictures of what's existing over there. So here's our main entrance. We're looking to remove this wall sign and just put our mermaid logo over there. And here's the existing drive-through canopy. You can kind of see the menu board here. This is our pre-menu board. So we're looking to just kind of shift all this over, have the menu board here, pre-menu board here, and slightly shift over by about 18 inches or so our clearance bar. And this is just to give you another shot of what it looks like from the plaza. No signage there existing. We're looking to put up the Starbucks word mark lettering and then the drive-through directional up at the corner there. So that's our proposal. Questions?
No. Thanks for the pictures. That's a big
Yeah.
help for me. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I'm sure the board appreciates it also. From the planning department, from their agenda statement, looks like there's some waivers that would be required for the proposal. Waiver for the facade sign, because it has a 100% logo, which you've run into before. That would be the mermaid, if I understand that correctly. Waiver allowing 2 facade signs on one facade, and that would be the I think is that the directional and the
It's
sign,
the drive-through
right?
and the Starbucks, yeah.
Yep, and then another waiver for 1.18 square feet of sign area based on the proposal for the side entrance facade. I mean, if that's the size you're proposing, then we'll just have to take action on those waivers, of course. So the only
Okay.
other option would be to come into compliance, and I know you want to have the directional signs, so
Yeah.
we'll just have to act on that.
Okay.
I guess I'll open it to the board to have questions or comments. Anybody?
Yes, so a couple of things. I like the fact that actually I didn't look at the sizes carefully, but I like the fact that on the side facing not street, that it's just going to be letters now and not. So I think it's a reasonable trade between having the letters and then the drive-through sign instead of the one they have now. I still don't think it's necessary on the plaza facing side. I still don't think any signage is necessary there. I remember we had that discussion way back when.
I wasn't here for that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I mean, we'll see what the rest of the board thinks.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's since it's not visible from the road, if you're at the plaza, I mean, it just gives it, just identifies it, basically.
Yeah.
I don't see where it would, it's not like
Well,
it's facing a
but the
residence.
thing is that does it require a waiver from us?
It's a waiver for
Yeah, for the-
because it's the logo, and it's 100%, just like Burlington, similar to Burlington and some of the other.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
so the logos, I think we can get to a good place in that. I was talking just about this one, the one that's facing the plaza.
Okay.
It doesn't have a sign there right now.
Doesn't.
Right.
It seems really blank the way it is now, though. I feel like when you look at it from that direction, let me get over there. I know we do have our window sign, but the building just looks very blank.
So, I don't know if that's the one that needs the 1.9 foot waiver. Clark, I don't know if you can jump in on that. Typically, though, they would be allowed a facade sign facing an internal road, but the planning board still has purview over all signage, so you could say no to that if you wanted to.
I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to get my bearing straight on that side.
It's like facing Uncle Rico.
you're
It's
looking
There
like
you go.
Standing at Uncle Rico's,
Yeah.
looking at the
And
building.
that's why, I speak for myself, that's why it doesn't bother me, because it's facing internal, and it does look a little empty there,
Can I ask, can you project kind of the impact of pushing out the sign and car traffic? So that means there's going to be a queue of cars that it's going to extend further into the lot.
Yeah.
I don't know what traffic's is like. I'm not over there at 7 o'clock in the morning at peak hours and 11 o'clock, but it stands to reason that you'll be lengthening the car lineup, right?
Yeah, so the way that Starbucks did their internal study is they found the holdup is not to get your order in. The holdup is to get your order, your coffee. So what we're trying to do is shorten that by moving it closer to the entrance. I understand the concern that that may cause some backup, but in our studies, it actually shows a 39% progress in moving the line along, because really we need to order in to prepare it. So while you're in line, we're getting your drinks ready. You're not waiting to order. When people wait so long to order and then they get right up to the window, we're making their drink, and it just causes backup that way. So it really is just to try to improve the movement in the queue. When it's busy, the sooner we can get the order in, the sooner the line's going to move.
And there's no change in the path or, the flow of traffic. Everything's
No.
staying the same, right?
Yeah.
And there's no change in parking with this application. Everything's the same. It's just basically relocation and signage for us. I mean, the interior fit up is, building permit and with the building inspectors. So we're really concerned with, what it looks like and whether, traffic is impacted or lighting is impacted, so on and so forth.
Sure.
So Daniel, not to harp on this, but you are going to you're going to stack up earlier, right? So you're going to have a tail. You're going to have a tail of these cars further out in the lot than currently is now, right?
Well, I mean, if 10 cars came at the exact same time, there would be a period where there was a slight more of a backup, right? But usually that's not the way it goes. And we need to just get them. It's just 2 cars we're moving it up, and that's 2 cars that we're getting their orders prepared sooner. I don't think that it causes more of a backup. It helps the drive-through more. I understand what you're saying. I had the same concerns when we started doing these. But truly where the wait is not to get your order in, it's to get your food. So, the sooner that we can get your order in, the quicker we can get the line moving.
For what it's worth, Mr. Scributennis, that I can see how that logic kind of does make sense. I know in some drive-throughs there's a Starbucks actually on Watt Street near my work in Schenectady on the crosstown. And oftentimes it seems because they can only fit 3 cars between the order station and the window, people are placing an order, but then they can't put their car in drive. They're waiting for the people ahead of them to clear. So I can see it both ways. I would be curious to know if Mr. Brennan, you can provide any, written documentation as to the internal studies performed by Starbucks on this.
There have been, they didn't do a study on this exact store, but they have done studies. We did a store in Wexford, Pennsylvania. We did a study, a similar setup like this, where we went from a 5-car stack to a 7-car stack. And they said it improved the drive-through 39% efficiency, and it reduced 15 seconds per car. There are studies that I can share if I can get them over to the board at some point, but I don't have a specific one for this store.
Understandable.
I'll get up early and go get a cup of coffee and check out the stats.
Yeah, I mean, along these same lines, the way, and I've seen this a few times now, the way that people approach that line, most of the time they come down, coming straight from where Uncle Rico's is, come down that.
Yeah.
And when those lines are long, it does actually block a few of the parking spots
It does.
that are there.
Mhm.
So maybe part of this could be if we can get folks to come up from the intersecting drive, right? The one that's adjacent, the one that leads to TD Bank that's there, or TD, whatever they call it now.
Of course, then it blocks the entrance.
But then it blocks the entrance to the bank, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
I think that our setup, what we're proposing is really only going to help the situation by 2 cars. It's not going to make it worse. We're trying to make the situation better. And like I said, we're doing this to almost all our stores now.
Do you have?
Mr. Brennan, is there any backup plan in the event that it does make things worse?
No, I don't. I'm very confident it won't make things worse. Because really we're not changing how many cars fit in there. We're just changing how soon we're getting the order in. I mean, if our staff was not taking the orders in a timely manner, then I think that would not be helpful to this setup. But that's not what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, Daniel, this is Clark. I think what Mr. Scributennis mentioned in his initial comment is you're saying that you've moved the order menu 2 car lengths to the left as we're viewing it. So
Yeah.
I think what we're saying is, let's say 3 cars come. You had
Yep.
2 more car lengths to keep them to the right of the screen, away from blocking the handicap parking spots, where now those 3 cars are going to stack more to the left while the
Yeah.
front car is trying to enter its order, potentially blocking those handicap spots. I think that's
Yep.
the question that was raised.
I
As-
understand.
yeah,
As I
Clark, you
understand.
summarized that well. So although the line from the order board to the window will move faster, by definition, there are going to be more cars prior to that order window, right? They might be spending a shorter period of time, et cetera, but the count would be higher for that shorter period of time for a given number of cars coming in.
Well, I think to Patrick's point, though, it kind of depends on how fast they're coming in. If they come in one at a time, and like of the 3 cars, and they each put their order in, then the line's going to move faster because they're farther along in the line. But if they all come in at once, then the stacking's. So I mean, I guess if you
It
drive,
depends where the bottleneck is.
It depends,
And it
yeah.
sounds like what Starbucks has discovered is the bottleneck is between the order and the pickup window.
Yeah.
although I mean, I go to that Starbucks all the time. It's right here. I walk to it. And there is stacking in the parking lot fairly regularly, just fairly regularly. I just had a question. Does the pickup order window have an ability to reduce the cars in the drive-through so that we don't have as much? Why did they get rid of the pick? Because what if the pickup ordering like reduces the cars in the drive-through?
Good question.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I think they could just as easily, I guess, walk inside and get it too at that point.
I mean, because pickup means you've already put the order in head, right? So you're not going to go through the drive-through. You're going to use an existing parking spot, hop out of your car really fast, grab your coffee, and then go again, right? That would be the pickup window.
No, I think the pickup window is for somebody that's walking and just wants to order a coffee.
Oh, it is.
See, I don't think you're gonna, if
But
you're
I think
in your
you could
car,
either.
I don't think you're gonna get out of your car to go to the window. You're gonna most likely sit in your car and go to the,
No, but I mean, today, one of the usages of that is someone orders online, they park, and they go inside and pick up, usually from that entrance, right where you're putting the pickup window. So I think, once I saw your reconfigured inside, and so the counter space is going to go all the way up to that pickup window that's clouded right now, right? I think it is a traffic reducing option, a drive-through pressure reducing option.
So I mean, that's what I do with Starbucks because the line takes so
Yeah.
long. Is I order before I leave town hall.
Yeah.
Park, pick up, go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Trying to
So
find-
did they have a reason why they eliminated that walk-up pickup window?
Well, they were also going to extend the, I'm trying to find the actual layout here.
Yeah, your counter where
There
the
it is.
employees are now has extended, right? It's different
Yeah.
than what it is right now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So here's the area where you can pick up your stuff. I guess putting in the window, but they could still just walk right in here and pick it up as well, just as easy. And to be honest, there probably wouldn't be somebody there ready to help them necessarily. Walking in when you pre-order is you just walk in and grab your drink. You don't have to get help to do it. You know what I mean? Going to a pickup window is kind of, you need help from somebody.
Yeah, other restaurants do that. You order ahead, they've got your thing on a tag. You just walk. It's like the honor system. You walk.
Yeah,
in, you
they
grab
have
it.
that here.
they do it there now. It's a difference of walking in or not walking in. I could see where maybe it's not a big deal, but
Yeah.
Well, maybe rather than pointing everybody to the drive-through, you could put a pickup window sign on that facade and start encouraging people to park and then walk in and get their drinks.
Right, and the other
Easy
benefit
bumps.
of this location is that you do get a lot of pedestrian traffic, just proximity to the town center, the
Yep.
high school is right there. So I can see where not having a staff person allocated to that window constantly
yeah,
would make sense. But a good point Laura has is maybe that signage could be improved facing the plaza side as opposed to advertising the drive-through.
yeah. Yeah, I guess the bottom line is making the pickup option clear,
Mhm.
whether it's an external window or it's walking inside. I think should be something we should look to make clear. But back to the original point, I think, given the traffic there at times now, by definition, we're moving everything 2 cars to the left. They may not be there for as long because it's more efficient, but it'll be 2 cars to the left for a finite number of time, right? That wasn't there today.
Yeah, it's just my experience because I really do walk by there a lot at lunch, is I don't see a gap. Like I literally see cars wrapped around from the pickup window all the way around and then in.
Hence
There
the
isn't a gap between when they're ordering and where they're going. So like I don't know. if
There's
that's
no
gonna
gap because
matter.
they haven't been preparing the
There's not a
coffee sooner.
gap.
It would just go quicker if we knew what the order was sooner. We'd be making it sooner, and then the cars would be out of there sooner. You know what I mean? I know there's no gap there, but it's because the car in front of them doesn't have their coffee yet.
Mr. Brennan, I think we're kind of going a little bit on anecdotal evidence through what our own personal experiences have been. That's why I would like to see some kind of written documentation of this study that you referenced, but also I'm curious. I know for a fact that a lot of fast food restaurants, possibly all fast food restaurants, monitor closely their performance in terms of time to fill orders and number of orders filled on a daily basis. I gotta believe an organization of Starbucks sophistication could produce this data for us on a site-specific basis. So could we look into some real hard data points for this location?
Sure. Yep, you're certainly right. I'm sure there is data through operations on exactly how long it takes down to the second, I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's a strong suggestion.
Yeah.
As far as this board's action, obviously there's some more information that we need to help move this along. Are you separating the internal and external remodel? Because if they want to get a building permit to do the internal, that may not, we wouldn't be controlling path, the planning board. Is that true
That's
statement?
correct. They could do internal.
So I just wanted to point that out, you know, and again, I don't know how you're sequencing things. It may not be practicable because you may need to have your contractor there for all of it. But if that's the case, you know, if you're looking to get moving on the inside, you could always separate it out.
Yeah. Yeah. We explored that option. They're going to have to close the store for a bit. So they were hoping to do it in one swoop rather than
Okay. Got it.
close it a couple times. But it sounds like we might want to do the interior if it's going to take a bit, come to another meeting. So are you saying we need waivers for our wall
Well,
signs?
there's three waivers, as I mentioned earlier. Waiver for the facade sign because it's 100% logo, but we've
Yeah.
given those in the past. Again, not speaking for the board, just myself. Waiver allowing 2 facade signs, and that would be the new Starbucks along with the directional sign. So you got 2 signs on the facade, and then the size of 1.18 square foot that it's over. Yeah, on that facade. So, I mean, to me, they don't seem to be, especially the logo, because we've dealt with that before. And so it's just a matter whether this board's happy with the 2 facade signs, meaning the directional sign, and then the 1.18 square foot, you know, which to me isn't a heck of a lot, you know. But that's, again, it's just my opinion. You
For the
know.
lettering, right?
That was for note 7. I'd have to take a look to see which one is 1.18 square foot larger than, Laura, do you know off the top of your head which sign that is?
So I think it's the 2 signs added together, right, Clark?
Correct. It's the
Oh,
2
okay.
signs added together.
Okay.
The 2 sides facing one side, right? Facing,
The side facing Uncle Rico's has 2 signs and it's 1.9 square feet over.
right.
And together.
Gotcha.
And what about the one facing Knott Street?
That one's okay.
That one's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm actually okay. Personally, I'm okay with the logo sign. I'm okay with the one facing Knott Street coming out the letters. I don't see a compelling reason to actually put up a sign where there is none today and require a waiver for it.
Yeah.
So the sign itself, though, doesn't need a waiver. It needs a waiver for the
For
second
the-
sign.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah.
So we could pick one or the other, maybe the drive-through sign or
We could take a look at
And then
that.
you wouldn't need a waiver for the square footage. of it
Right.
if you reduced it by
or
one.
entertain maybe putting a pickup pickup door here or something.
So, Mr. Brennan, so I guess that question leads to the question, are all the directional signs required to get the flow going the right way, or is it, you know, pretty straightforward without the signs?
It's probably pretty straightforward. I think the one where the pickup window was, I mean, that one's somewhat helpful. The other one is in the drive-through lane, so I guess that's just visible to Knott Street if you're driving down the other way. I'd have to take it back to my design team.
Yeah,
I
take a look
think.
at that. If you can minimize it, you know, signage. I'm okay, you know, as Laura said, that you're allowed to have the facade sign, you know, I know Mr. Khan's, you know, just says there's not one there, but it's actually allowed. So, you know, I don't have a problem personally with that.
Right. And so for me, the logic is it's allowed, but then we're going to go put one in and then we require a waiver
Yeah.
for it. So
Yeah,
that's,
so yes, if we can avoid
Yeah.
the waiver because we don't really need a directional sign there, then that just makes it easier.
right. Or you don't need a name there. Pick one.
Yeah. Yep.
So, Mr. Brennan, not knowing if you're local to this area or not, if you are, it would be good to maybe stop by and see Starbucks at some of the busier times. Or if you're not local, you could work with some of the management team at, say, peak hour, say, hey, how many cars did you have at 7 o'clock in the morning? What was it at 7:30? What was it at 8:30? Did it tail off? I mean, you're in a good position because, you know, Starbucks has a pretty loyal following. It's a busy store. But improving one, I guess what we're concerned about is improving one aspect of the business, hopefully doesn't hamper cutting off parking or a good chunk of your parking that's on the sidewalk feeding the front of the store as just a negative result of what you think is a better planning aspect.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I can go back. I'm not local. I'm in New Hampshire, but I can have the operational team do some recon on that and see what's going on a day-to-day.
Yep.
All right. So somebody had a question? So I think, I guess get challenged on whether you need all the signs, Mr. Brennan, you know, and that would, you know, minimize the number of waivers that this board would have to give. So at least, take a look at that. All right.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have a request for whatever studies that Starbucks, banks on that says that this works from Mr. McPartland. That's a good question. If they have a document that you can share with us, that'd be great, that shows that this works.
Sure.
I don't really see any other open items.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything they could think of I missed?
No, I think relative to the planning application, I think we're fine. Just one additional question. I didn't look at it detailed enough to answer this for myself. So overall, is the amount of seating on the inside of the store going to increase or decrease?
I think it's actually decreasing a bit because we extended that coffee bar. So I believe it's 14 seats here. And I think we had a little more than that. I think we had 20 something before.
Yeah. So definitely you want to talk to the management team about that.
How about the seat count?
Yeah. Just get their opinion on it.
You think we should have more seats?
Yep.
What's that,
Okay.
Laura?
I mean, there's like nowhere else for me to eat lunch, just for the record.
It's-
Like, I would love
Okay,
for
I
there to
mean,
be other
but
places.
there,
good public service.
it's usually crowded.
It's almost always full in there.
It's almost always full in there. Yes. Again, it's
Okay.
anecdotal
Okay.
to Mr. McPartland's point, but I think you folks probably have the data.
Yeah.
I mean, that was actually one of the, for me at least, I think I was one. Chris and I were the project leads for this when it first came about. I had expected the Starbucks on the inside to actually be a lot more roomy for customers, and it really wasn't.
Yeah, versus the old one there was quite a few seating areas. Just
That's right.
yeah,
The interior.
yeah.
I mean, people used to go in there and do their knitting and crocheting clubs. And,
Exactly. People with all their computers and students and
yeah.
so it seemed like when it transitioned from the old one to this outbuilding, it seemed the focus was obviously more on drive-through
Mhm.
and less on
Yeah.
internal, people meeting people there. Meet me at Starbucks and we'll talk about it there because there's obviously not a lot of seats. So
Yeah, part of this, like where the pickup window was going, we're actually going to be, I don't know if I have a phone with it.
Cutting down the space.
We're going to be extending this sidewalk and actually building an outdoor patio here. And doing a pickup window and a canopy over here. So there'd be more outdoor seating, but we'd lose some parking spaces and I don't know if it was a budget thing or why we moved away from it.
well, it definitely be more complex if you started changing, square footage or sidewalks, because then we'd be more concerned, obviously, about pedestrian traffic flow and everything. So
Yeah.
I guess the plan that you've come in with is simpler, I guess would be the word.
Yeah.
Makes it, it's easier, just the stacking concern, and shutting off
Yeah.
the parking spot, especially the handicap spot.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a way to figure out how to get at least maintain the seating for customers or make it greater on the inside, that's what I was hoping the discussion with your management team there would be able to lead to.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll bring that back to the team.
Yeah, once you have your discussion, and then, if you're the applicant, if you want to stay firm where you're at, that's your call, and
Yeah.
we'll make a decision on whatever you put in front of us,
Yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback. I mean, we want to make it work for everybody, for sure.
And how's your schedule?
Our schedule?
Yep.
Well, I'm thinking that the team might want to do the interior because it's been in queue for a bit now. But I think we were hoping to start in about 4 weeks. I don't think that's going to be doable with.
Well, we'll see, we got a meeting in 2 weeks. You get back to us, we can get you on the agenda for the next meeing. And if this board's comfortable where we're at, we can call for an approval the following meeting, which would make it June, whatever the first meeting in June would be. That would be the soonest that we could do, since we're not calling for
Yeah.
a resolution next meeting. So if you look at that timeline and you look at your permit process and your interior, I think we should be able to get an approval, the first meeting in June, I would think.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
And I guess in summary, for whatever it's worth, everything being said, the Starbucks looks more as a drive-through Starbucks than the previous version did.
Understood. But it's the trend has been they're coming through the drive-through, so we're just trying to accommodate it, trying to make it work. It's a problem in a lot of our locations.
Yep. Okay. And we'll need a project lead, of course. It sounds like Mr. Khan, you might have had it before. I don't know if you want to stick with this one or not.
Sure, I can do it.
Okay. All right. Anything, Mr. Brennan, from you? Any questions or anything for the board?
No, just maybe just regarding the wall signs. It sounds like the logo disc would be approved, but there's concern on the drive-through directional signs. Am I
Right.
right in saying that?
Yeah, just take a hard look at where you really need those directional signs because it invokes the waiver because when you add the square footage of the signs together, it puts you over the limit. So if you have a different a selection of signs that you use other sites, maybe the one that's smaller or less prominent.
So it's the
you know.
combination of the two signs,
That's
their
my
square
understanding.
footage is
Yeah, correct.
about
So
one
on the
square foot
facade that has the Starbucks and the drive-through sign, that's the problematic facade.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
But I think for me, at least, that would be acceptable facing Knott Street.
Yeah.
Because you do need to let customers passing by kind of have an idea of where to enter the lot.
Yeah.
And maybe on the one facing internal to the plaza, maybe just the directional sign.
Yeah, or just the Starbucks sign, one or the other, right?
It depends on which one is more
Yeah.
useful, right? The
Yeah,
directional-
whatever is more
Okay.
useful, right?
Yeah, and the directional
I mean,
sign is smaller.
Because if you're in the plaza, you look and you can see the you see where the cars are probably
You're
stacked
gonna
and
you're
where
gonna
they're
you're gonna
going,
see the
right?
line of cars.
Yeah, 'cause they're all gonna be in front of the menu board,
Yeah.
not behind it now. But
I-
yeah.
I-
So you take a look at that and just, see what works for you guys.
Yeah,
And
and-
make a recommendation, where you stand, okay?
Look, since I'll take this one, we can talk offline too, but I mean, for the board here, right? Yes, we know post-COVID, the world is different, if it is post-COVID, but the concept of people sitting down and working and studying and talking and, right? It was noticeable to the community that the previous Starbucks became less of a gathering place than the current one, even prior to COVID. That was clear.
Yep.
And this one is going to be an even less of a gathering place just because of a square footage reduction for seating and consumer seating. So if that is what it is, but then,
It's just a point, right?
right? Yeah.
Yep, I appreciate the feedback. I'll definitely bring it back to our team, see if we can adjust accordingly.
And if you got any questions, Mr. Brennan, obviously you're always welcome to call the planning office and they'll help you out between now and the next meeting.
Yep.
Sure, yeah, Clark's
Okay.
been helping me along the way,
Yeah.
so.
And if we got into
Appreciate
an
that.
email chain, now I do want to let you know, Chairman March, so I will not be here for the May 23rd meeting, but we'll get everything in
Yeah.
order, whatever needs to be before then.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Brennan?
Nope, that's it. Thank you, I'll be back.
Yeah, and thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. All right, so next we have 1 Glen Eddy Drive, site plan application for main entrance and dining room additions. We have Representative Mr. Tierney here. I'm going to recuse myself from this application, and Mr. DiArpino is going to act as chair, and Ms. Strang will be taking my seat as an alternate during this discussion. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Tierney, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for your time this evening. Again, my name is Mike Tierney. I'm a project manager for St. Peter's Health Partners. I'll just talk real briefly about who we are, what we do, why we're here, and then we'll get into the project. So we are St. Peter's Health Partners, a locally based healthcare company. We operate really 3 divisions: acute care, medical practices, doctor offices, specialties, things like that. And then our final component is continuing care. A lot of work for the seniors. We have skilled nursing homes. We have numerous services for seniors, and then we also have senior housing. So that's really what Glen Eddy is. It's a senior housing community. It has 2 components within Glen Eddy. It has the independent living where residents come and go. They drive their vehicles, and as they age, they may move towards the terrace, which is the assisted living housing. That's what I'm here to talk to you about today, is the terrace. And we're proposing an addition and a porte-cochere or a canopy, a drive-under canopy at the terrace. We're seeking site plan approval for that. A couple things that we're not doing is we're not increasing staff, we're not increasing residents, we're not changing parking, we're not increasing or decreasing parking. And we're not going to be a skilled nursing home. So the reason that I'm here for this evening is that we want to get an enhanced license for the assisted living facility, and we are regulated by the Department of Health. So this enhanced license requires us to have a larger dining room. And like I said, we're not increasing staff, we're not increasing residents, but the larger dining room just requires residents maybe have a walker or a scooter just to make more room for that. So that's really the basis of the expansion. The addition is 120, or it's about 800 square feet in the dining room, and then it also bumps out. You can see on the site plan up there. Over on the left-hand side is the dining room, and over on the far right-hand side is a library. We're going to bump out our library just slightly. And then in addition to that is we're going to replace our existing canopy with a new portiere, which is going to extend out a little bit further into the driveway. And it will cover the passenger side of the vehicle. And that's what we found. We've had some difficulty as residents or visitors get dropped off in the inclement weather. They weren't covered, but this will cover them as they exit vehicles or they enter vehicles. Questions?
Okay, so just to recap, if you could zoom in on the plan, Laura. Perfect. So the dining room is the small addition to the right-hand side, correct?
No, the dining room is the larger one on the left-hand side.
All right,
Yes.
larger one on the left.
Yes.
The one on the right, which says new addition, that is part of
That's the library.
the library. Okay.
And what our design team thought is, since we're bumping out the building, we may as well give more space, because the library, just as it is today, could use a little bit more space. So that was the kind of the twofold approach, actually threefold approach: the dining room, the library, and then the portiere as well.
Also, with the sidewalk reconfiguration in the front, did you notice that there was more, I guess, need for entry points in and out of the building? Is there issues with controlling exit points or entry points? You said sometimes residents can come and go as they please, or do some of them need to have more, monitoring or oversight?
For this building, the assisted living, it is really, they need help. They would need help entering. Most people would need help entering. We did not increase any entrance points. There is one, in fact, it's probably easier for me to point to it. This one here was a code requirement just for the square footage of the new addition. That was something that our design team had to put in just for evacuation and for emergency egress. But to answer the question, no, we didn't have a need for any more entrances or exits for the building. It's still the standard. Visitors and folks entering the building will come through the main entrance, which it is card swipe right now with hopefully we are in post-COVID right now, but that may change at some point. But we're going to still maintain all of our entry points and not add anything new.
Okay. Thoughts from other board members?
I mean,
I'm curious to know how far the portico extends over the driveway itself. It's difficult for me to tell based on the site plan provided.
It is. It extends 8 feet over the edge of sidewalk. So
Cantilevered.
yeah, exactly. Cantilevered out 8 feet out from those columns, and we made it very clear with the staff that it does not cover both sides. It does not cover the driver's side. It only covers the passenger side, and that was.
And do you know the clearance?
Yes, I do. 10 foot 8 inches.
One other question I had, I wanted to just better understand what other groundwork is being done to the cul-de-sac.
So we are reworking the curb line, and we're going to straighten at the entry point of the building. The design that's up, the current site plan that's up right now, you see it's a curve, there's a loop to it as you come up to the current canopy. We felt by straightening that out, that would give a more direct approach right to the main entrance rather than having that loop. See, the image that's up right now, it has more of a flat line coming up, and there's better chance for two vehicles to pass through. That was another issue, is that with that current layout, it was difficult to get a second vehicle past, but our idea now is to flatten it out, straighten it out, so that two vehicles could pass. Because from time to time, a vehicle may be parked at the main entrance while somebody gets out, and another person may be coming in and may want to pass through to get through the cul-de-sac.
It looks like a nice design. I really, I thought the renderings looked very impressive as well. I did notice that we may be losing some mature or more sort of established shrubbery and trees. So I was hoping that we could have a little more detail on a planting plan.
You're right. The existing shrubs are going to be relocated somewhere else within the campus. There is a mature tree in the island that will have to be taken down, just for the sake of where it is close to the curb line. I think we're still up in the air as far as what plantings we wanted to do. You can see we have large landscaping beds right at the main entrance, and you know, Glen Eddy standards are very high as far as landscaping goes. I can definitely assure the board that we'll maintain exactly what we have, if not improve on that.
Okay.
And just to be sure, there's no associated increase in your maximum number of residents that's associated with this, right? This is strictly a quality of life, more dining space.
Absolutely. We have 42 residents in this assisted living. We're going to maintain 42 residents. There's no impact in the independent housing. That number is not changing. So this is one of the tough ones where you're spending a lot of capital and you're not generating more revenue, but it's part of the process.
Mr. Tierney, can you tell me, you're not increasing any more of the paved area? It's going to be the same paved area?
So the parking lot stays the same. We keep 8 spaces and 8 handicap spaces. The sidewalks essentially stay the same. I'm not certain about where we flattened out the curb line, if we gain space or we lose space. I'm not exactly sure about that. I can't be positive about that.
It's a very minor delta for the new layout.
And you know, I'm glad that the design is as presented, because I do think with having this covered entryway, you might have a little more of a backup with people sort of parking while they're loading and unloading. And so it's good to have extra space for car traffic to bypass that entryway.
I know, Laura, you'd mentioned the heights. It is 10 to 8. Ambulances do fit. Our bus does fit under. So we were conscious of that. Yes, absolutely. And that we would definitely dissuade any RV from coming through there. But no, that's a good point. We might have to put up.
Goodness. Hopefully you wouldn't have traffic trails, but even though it's going to follow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have another project at Sunnyview Hospital, and our design team was just talking about that one because we saw there was another bridge incident going back to. So.
I think they're actually going to raise it. Yeah.
So just one of the things that the planning board will do is they'll refer this to emergency services. We should have the fire department look to make sure that a full-size truck can make that turn in there with the canopy projection. That would probably be a good thing. And then just from a systems view, because I'm in the construction industry, those trees that you have on the island in the middle, I think are going to probably be lost. You're connecting the two catch basins through there with a pipe. So again, if you're taking down mature trees, if there's a good planning scheme or something that could, enhance that area.
Definitely.
I mean, just the obvious construction side of this, I think you're going to be, in order to get your systems and utilities hooked up, you're going to be losing some stuff that's there, but.
Absolutely.
And those were some cool trees.
Yeah, there is a mature maple right in the island.
Correct.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
But there's no way to save it. At
Oh,
least
there
one of
is.
them.
You can do anything. It's just the difference between difficult and impossible.
Yeah.
So,
The root system may be jeopardized.
Okay, good. Any other thoughts from board members, observations, anyone virtual?
So I think like our standard like tree council though is if we know that a nice tree is coming down, then we ask for like at least one, maybe two to be replanted somewhere else on the site. So if you know you're going to lose these trees, maybe identifying places that you can plant new trees.
Sure.
Just so we're consistent, because I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
we do that with a lot of applicants.
Yeah, I'm sure some of your residents are not going to be happy with those trees going away.
No, absolutely. And again, this is their home, so
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
this is their what they see every day, and we would certainly put back what we take down and then add some to that respect.
Sure. Okay. I think this project would also be a good one to refer to the Architectural Review Board. We have a committee, volunteers that take a look at a lot of the planning and zoning projects that come forth, and they look at it, not only from constructability, but aesthetics. They offer really good advice sometimes and work with the application that we have at hand. So I think this would be a good one to try to meld, what that canopy is going to look like, and maybe some of the materials. You have your materials list. Looks like you have some stone cladding around the columns, and if you're going to have exposed steel or the copper roof, sounds like it'd be very nice with a barrel vault.
Absolutely.
Does the additional space trigger any need for additional parking?
So Leslie, I just got a text that your microphone must not be working. So I'm just going to repeat your question. Does the additional space square footage trigger a need for additional parking? Clark and I can look into that before the next meeting.
That's a good question.
Okay.
And I guess it's also what schedule he's on, right?
Right. And your current timetable, what are you looking for?
We'd like to get in the ground in September.
Okay. All right, good.
To be done before the winter?
That's the goal.
Okay.
At least get it enclosed, do the site work, and get it buttoned up. It's going to be disruptive for our residents. Fortunately, we have a multi-purpose room next door to the dining room that will probably be our spillover for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for those folks. But it's going to be a challenge. There's winter comes quick.
Well, not only that, just general procurement for some things that you have here. You've got storefronts, doors, windows. The lead times have been excessively long in that industry. So, even if there's a planning period where you're purchasing and storing, and then we'd also want to know for the construction site if there was any type of storage container that may be part of this at some point, or anything that may be long-term. We've seen some other similar facilities in town have requested temporarily to have a storage container on site.
Okay.
So if that would be either, in the street view or, seen from Console Road, not just during the construction period, but anything thereafter that would linger, we'd want to know about that too. So,
Generally speaking, the residents would be up in arms if we did something like that. So my first reaction is that we would not store anything on site. We have local construction manager that has storage space that we would probably utilize their space, but it's definitely worthwhile in confirming.
Okay, good. And as with every project, we'll have to have a project lead. So if anyone's interested, can let myself and Lauren Clark know.
So do we want to see the landscaping plan and have it referred to the architectural review board and then call for resolution? Or do you want to call for a tentative resolution and work on those items, I guess is my question in this one.
So there's an ARB meeting, I believe, next Wednesday. And it's before this upcoming meeting we have in 2 weeks. So we could do a tentative resolution if that would be acceptable.
Yep. I think given the nature of the residents and the service this provides to, the residents of that community, we'd really want to minimize all of the delays that already exist. Right?
Right. Thank you.
I think that's something.
And no, I didn't see no change to signage. There's nothing like that.
No,
Okay.
that's a good point. We have a main sign as you approach from console, and there's no changes to that. No wayfinding changes.
Okay.
And again, it's all for residents, right? There's no external folk, other than relatives or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just for residents really we see as people live longer, they age and they have walkers and scooters, things of that nature. And it's become an issue, I think, for all assisted living. It's
on our
storage
list.
space. And, yes.
All right. So before that next meeting, we'll have the town review the parking requirements, see if there's any additional. If we do find that out, I think we should add that to the discussion points for next meeting, because that may trigger getting some more information that's just larger than this partial plan. We would have to see then the whole plot plan and then what the proposed solution would be on that. But I think we could probably figure that out relatively
Yeah.
quickly
I think so too.
in order to work that into that 2-week timetable.
Great.
And then we'll have the police and fire look at the entryway. You said 10 foot 8 inches, right?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Right. And then the projected, what would be helpful is if you took this plan here specifically and maybe just put a red dashed line showing the projection of the canopy.
Okay.
And then that will help the fire department understand the turning radius, at least of their largest truck. And do deliveries come to the front, or do they go to the back, correct?
Okay, everything
Okay.
goes to the back.
Right.
The main dock is actually just south of this site in the main building, but yeah, we do not have just residents and staff enter here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Any other comments? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Tierney, and
Okay.
we'll,
So there's a tentative, but there's no vote on it this evening. We'll come back 2 weeks. Is that? Okay. Yep.
correct. There's some work that the board's going to do on the parking. If you could update the one plan to show the canopy projection, and we'll try to get that over to emergency services for them to take a courtesy look at it. If there's anything during that time frame, the planning department will let you know that the parking has to be shown. Then you just have to just get supplemental information that would have to accompany this.
Excellent. Okay.
And unless we find something that really triggers it, that we'd have to have another meeting, we'd let you know. It would just become a discussion item for the next meeting, and then we try to work towards 2 meetings from now to get it.
Okay. Very well.
All right.
We talked about a landscaping plan. Is that something the board is asking for? Or is that something you'd like to see?
So we treat all applicants, I think, similarly. Either you submit a landscaping plan to the planning board, or the planning board will refer it to the tree council for you to work on later. So if you can come up with a landscaping plan pretty quickly, then we can apply it here. But if you don't have it, then probably the planning board would put a pretty strong condition in the resolution that you have to satisfy
All right.
tree council.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, that's just something we're working through with facilities as far as, what plantings work in that area with the shade and the sun that they get. But we'll try to pull something together and put it on the drawing in addition to the projection of the canopy.
All right.
All right. Thank you
All
for your
right. Thank
time.
you for your time. Turn it back over to Chairman Walsh.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Derapino. Thank you, Ms. Strang, for filling in. Okay, last discussion item tonight is 3333 Council Road, that's Niskuna Square, Hanford Supermarket site plan application for sidewalk improvements, including an addition of an ADA ramp. I believe that's Mr. Oates. Are you online tonight, Mr. Oates?
Yes, I am. Good evening, everybody.
Oh, there you are. Thank you. Maybe you could just give us an overview of the project to get it started.
Absolutely. I want to share my screen real quick. All righty. So we are proposing to replace the existing sidewalk in the retail portion of the center and then also expand it out into the drive lane, taking out the existing hatched area that's there and then matching back in to the existing curb line for the Hannaford to go pickup lane. So it'd be right in this section. Then we'll just replace in kind this portion of the sidewalk. And then we'll be adding a new crosswalk and ADA access ramp in this area here. So it'll have the main drive lane will wind up being 24 feet in front of this area. The sidewalk will be approximately 20 feet. There's about 12 feet that'll be under the overhang and about 8 feet on the outside of the overhang. We think it will help with just providing a larger pedestrian walkway in this area with the overhang so people will be able to walk in the front. In the back, it'll also take the drive lane as well and reduce it a little bit in width, which we find helps to actually slow down traffic in that area and make it a little bit safer for people to cross back and forth.
Mhm.
So that's everything we are proposing. There's no other changes. There'll be no change in any landscaping. There's no other signage changes or anything like that. And then we will also pave the drive lane in this area as well, just so it doesn't get cut up with the new curb. So it'll be a nice new drive lane all the way across.
Only that area or maybe more? There's some huge potholes around the other corner. Yeah, there is.
Over there.
Not there, the corner coming off of Balltown Road. So anyway, I mean,
Yeah, the west
All the way. I mean, we do maintenance. We do proactively fill potholes. We proactively go through and do topping and overlays in the parking lot as well. So I'll make our property manager aware of that so we can get those potholes taken care of. So that's in this section.
yes, right there. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it's right before you make the turn by where the pharmacy police is there.
Okay, I will let them know. We, as a company, we have property managers that
Or
that
local
specifically
board.
handle our properties. So I will let them know so they can get that taken
We're
care of
not
as
in
part of
Ohio.
this.
I mean, this one's it seems very straightforward, right? There's no
Yep.
new impervious area. I think it's good that not only the ADA part, but also it's extended space for pedestrians, which I think is
Yep.
the right direction.
I think the main change is just that they're bumping the sidewalk out. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
the planning department doesn't have any objections to it.
So
But it's good to look at pothole striping and landscaping.
if you could bring up that picture that was the Google Earth one that shows the storefronts.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I'll go to
do that
the
again.
street view.
Just a quick observation. So when people access these storefronts, because of the configuration of these sidewalks, it becomes a very perpendicular access point. So they park, they go into the store, and they come back out. They rarely go lateral because the columns are so large, and there's other things like there's some waste receptacles, there's planters out there.
Yep.
It doesn't promote pedestrian activity. And if you watch, people will park specifically where they're going. They walk in perpendicular, they walk directly across traffic. They don't siphon to crosswalk areas, and then they go back out. They don't go parallel with the building. Just an observation of what's there. I think that the deeper sidewalks and the curb cut along with the striping will definitely enhance the pedestrian aspect of this plaza.
Definitely, yep.
Yeah, because that'll match back in, so
Mhm.
it'll be running all the way from over here,
Right.
all the way straight down. So yeah, in a nice day, you'll have a nice walkway in front of the overhang as well, just to be able to go to each different location as you want. Yep.
So Mr. Oates, is part of the purpose to kind of discourage people parking in the fire lane, jumping out, going to the liquor store and going to the Chinese food restaurant? Is that
Yes,
kind of your-
that also does help, because what we find when we have the oversized drive lanes, people will just be like, well, I can park here.
Yeah.
Everyone can get by me. I'm not doing it. When it goes down to 24 feet, they've now really, in essence, created a one-way drive that causes a lot more issues. So we find that, yes, it stops people from just parking here, quickly running in and leaving their car sitting there for 5 minutes. And
mean,
now
it'll still be
Hannaford,
two-way
back
traffic.
about 10 years ago, they did the dedicated
Yeah.
to-go area. So there's no longer with the supermarket as well, people coming out trying to load their cars or someone waiting. So they have more spots like that as well.
That's a good move.
And then the paving for the new drive lane will come from here, and it'll run all the way along the storefront, all the way down to this section as well. So there'll be a new overlay drive lane all the way over to this curb line on this side. So it'll be a nice clean look.
Are you shifting the fire lane over, or are you eliminating it?
We are eliminating the hatched area. So then there'll still be a full 24-foot width drive lane in front of the storefront, but we're proposing to eliminate the hatched area of the pavement.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not serving an emergency purpose today, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. It'll just be one more thing we check with police. Like, I would prefer for it to be sidewalk, but I'll just double check on that.
Yeah.
You're encouraging pedestrian access between the grocery store and the liquor store, I'll have you know. Mr. Oates.
Yeah. You didn't get you.
Okay, so the good news is that site improvements not going to impact really the traffic from what I hear. No, there's no lighting changes, no signage, no loss of parking spaces, so it's pretty much whether we're comfortable. And the only thing I heard is that it seems reasonable to at least have the fire department take a look at it because of the changing configuration of the road. And I think that's, and then of course, the comment, again, make sure your property management is up to speed on any potholes and taking care of the site, because we just like,
Absolutely.
so we can have the fire and police take a look at that probably pretty quickly. If you got all the information you need, right, Laura, to have that happen? Yeah, I think, I think it's pretty straightforward that call for a tentative resolution if the board's okay with that for the next meeting, granting approval of the changes and assuming we get, feedback from the fire chief or the fire department that everything's okay over there with the changes. Sound reasonable to the board? Any comments at all?
No, I think it's a good move.
Yeah, I think it'll get, it's pretty straightforward. We don't have any concerns. Have the resolution, then you'll be able to get your building permit and do it at whenever your schedule permits. Okay?
That's great. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
All right. Thank you for hanging in there, Mr. Oates, tonight.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
All right.
Dude.
We didn't actually discuss at Starbucks, but if Starbucks removes one sign and sticks with the logo, do we want to have a tentative for them too?
I think we had quite a few open items.
Yeah,
Did we?
regarding-
Okay, so we'll leave those
I think-
open.
And I think we need to see their
Yeah.
So
data.
Chase and Starbucks discussion, Glen, Eddy, and Hannaford tentative resolution.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's, we want to see the, concern about the
Couple
photometric
things to
data
check,
and,
yeah.
but I think we get all that information from Starbucks for the, next meeting.
Then it would
I
be-
think we're in pretty good
Okay.
shape after that, as long as it's, yeah, so I think for me, the lighting is the biggest concern, making sure that the people across the street aren't annoyed,
At the bank, yeah.
as always.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's it for discussion items tonight. And we'll move to planning department reports. I think you or Clark have anything specific tonight, Laura?
I don't have anything specific. If you guys have any questions on any of the projects, always happy to answer them though.
Any questions for Laura or Clark on any projects? Okay. And then we'll move to commission business. I do have one thing on the agenda I want to talk about. Let me start with everybody, see if anybody has anything, and then I'll move to the one item that I'd like to talk about. So, Mr. DiArpino, you have anything for us tonight?
Yeah, I'll give a quick update. The Architecture Review Board had a meeting. We looked at several projects. They took a look at the Chase Bank ATM project. We looked at the Kelts Farm project, specifically diversity in the single-family homes, and there were a couple of the duplexes that were the townhomes that we were looking at too. So work in progress. Things are moving along on that. And then 2147 Eastern Parkway, which is Lou Lisi's, he's working on his final renderings for that building too. So that's another one that's in progress. GE Global is tabled for now. They're working on some internal stuff, so we may or may not see that anytime soon. But again, if they come back, we'll work with them. And then they looked at a garage addition on, I think it was Ruffner Road, and I think that was it. Oh, and they also looked at 2275 Grand Boulevard. So I will speak on that briefly here. So I did write a letter of support for the project. Full disclosure, I live directly across the street from this project. And a couple things. The Architecture Review Board is reviewing this. He did get his zoning. He did not have any updated elevations. However, he is hiring an architect at this point because he did get his zoning. They've been very good stewards of the house. It is historic nature. I met with Mr. Guest twice prior to his zoning meeting to review some of the plans that he had and to understand what his intention was. A couple things. The Doyles have not been in my house, so they cannot confirm that the headlights do shine in. So just as a thing of record, but I don't get it as bad as the two adjacent neighbors, but their property is elevated. And because it's a shared driveway, they do come in and they come in that side yard, depending on which way they decide to park. If they don't park towards Palmer, no headlights. If they decide to park towards the boulevard, you can get a glimpse of it. So anyways, regardless. So I'm obviously very interested in what he's doing. And Mr. Guest has absolutely said he wanted to work with the Architecture Review Board and have them, review what he's doing aesthetically. I will talk to him about the commercial nature of the garage. I was not under the impression that that was what the applicant was going for. He does have an excavator, but I'd like to talk to him about that. I have a feeling the excavator may be housed in the garage on a trailer and taken out periodically. But as far as a commercial enterprise operating out of this addition, the addition was proposed to me as a residential 3-car garage with living space above it, attached with a breezeway to the house.
Yeah, Elena can speak to this quickly. It's not a planning board matter.
Yeah, right.
It's a case that went before the zoning board. Like, I know that we're willing to, listen to anybody who comes, but the planning board really has no jurisdiction there.
Yep. And could I just say something? I know it's your turn. Look, at the end of the day, the zoning board made a decision. Were these folks there?
They were not.
They were not.
Okay. Well, but the zoning board of appeals has made its decision, right?
Yes, the matter was heard before the zoning board of appeals. There's nothing that I'm aware of with this application that triggers jurisdiction of the planning board. And as the board is aware, statute is going to be obviously what dictates what you can and cannot hear. So while I understand the concerns of the neighbors, I'm not aware of anything that would bring this particular project before this board.
Yeah, I think Mr. DiArpino's actions were, for the future, it's in the context of the ARB recommendation. And because it's not the jurisdiction of this board, then he's free to do whatever he wants to do.
I'm not exactly sure what you're saying there, but I feel like we can just end the conversation with it's not a planning board.
Yeah, that's right. It's not a planning board issue.
Yeah. I think they'll pursue other paths, and it's always good to listen, but just, legal, like the statute would dictate if the planning board was triggered there, there's a lot of things that the building department can monitor. Like, we can monitor the size of vehicles on that property. There's code compliance on accessory structures. There's a lot of codes that still apply, but I don't think it's planning board ever get triggered there.
Right. And the ARB has been very busy, so there's a secondary meeting this month, Wednesday after next. That's it.
If the intent is in fact to use it as a commercial building, commercial garage with a business. And then I think you're looking at some use issues that might put it before us for a recommendation, but it's still going to be to the ZBA.
Potentially a use variance, yeah, but that wasn't the request of the applicant, and we wouldn't, that wasn't the request of the applicant.
Yeah, it would have to be how he applied for it at the ZBA, right?
Or it becomes an enforcement issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if that is the intent, then
Yeah, but we can only act on the application that we're given.
I hear
Correct.
you.
Otherwise, it's enforcement.
Problem is the intent is other than what's stated. That's my point.
Right, but if the intent is
It'll
other
become
than what's
an
stated.
issue later on. There's not much we can do about it at this point because we do have to go based on what the application is. But again, I don't mean to be difficult, but as of right now, it's not anything within the planning board's purview. So if there becomes further issues, then obviously Laura's department will deal with it accordingly.
And I was just pointing out that's the only way I can see it becoming a planning board issue. And it still would be our ultimate decision.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything else, Mr. DiRapino?
No.
All right, Mr. McPartlin?
Nothing for me, thank you.
All right, Mr. Khan?
Nothing here, sir.
Mr. Scrivby Tennis? No. Mr. Laflamme?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks. And Ms. Shenfield?
Nope, nothing for me.
Okay. And Ms. Gold? Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay. And Ms. Strang?
No, sir.
Okay. And the only thing I wanted to talk about was, and hopefully have a discussion, and I know it's getting late, it was one of our longer meetings, figures, right? Is our planning board approvals, our resolutions and our approvals, and what makes an approval to planning board. So the goal, I guess, of this conversation is make sure that we understand when we're approving something, what is the approval? What's it entail? And making sure that that's communicated, to the building department and to any other department that, would interact, such as engineering. And then, make sure that it gets executed, whatever we approve, all the way through the execution stage as we expect it, right? So that's kind of what I want to discuss. So when we have a resolution, I just took a resolution, I grabbed one. Last one we had was basically the storage container for Goodyear. So I just used that one. So we have a resolution, it usually contains a summary, right? And in that summary, it references a map or a drawing or a plat, right? That we've either had modified or we reviewed several times over the course of a project, potentially several times over the course of a project. It also potentially includes conditions, and usually conditions are something that either we want to highlight something or it's something that's not included on the map or within the summary statement. So we add a condition to make sure that that's apparent, right? But what I want to, and then obviously once the resolution is approved by this board, if there is a map, the map gets signed by myself and Superintendent of Water, Sewer and Engineering also signs. The engineering signs because there's usually, either a subdivision or a site plan, there might be, drainage or piping, whatever, roads, the water lines, et cetera. When I look at the map to sign, I'm basically looking at, is this what the planning board approved, and is that what we wanted, right? What we've talked about. So I don't get into, is the water line in the exact location? I get into the big picture. Is this what we approved, right? And is where we left off. I usually take a look at the map, look at the resolution. Is it the same number, configuration control, make sure it's what we approved. And then, we sign the map, the Superintendent of Water, Sewer and Engineering, myself, and that gets filed at the Schenectady County Clerk's office, right? And so that's like the reference document for title searches or for anything that you may do in the future, So that's archiving the information. So it's on file here and it's on file at the county clerk's office. So I guess what I would say is that to me, the approval is all of those things, right? It isn't just the conditions. It's the map that's referenced in the resolution is part of the approval. The whole package makes up the approval. And that's what I want to talk about tonight, is see what we got some attorneys on the board, engineers, architects, et cetera. We got lots of diversity here. Am I missing something, or is that everybody's understanding of what the approval takes from this board?
Yes, but that's where my concern about the notes or memos to the file comes in, because they're not part of the formal resolution. They're there, but they don't have the same attachment, for lack of a better word. And I worry that we don't always find them on a timely basis and apply them when they really are meant to be part of the resolution. They're meant to have that same respect. We're saying, yes, we've approved this little change, or we're saying we are putting a condition that we will not approve something. And that's why I think it needs to be either an amended resolution or an addendum to the resolution, or something that makes it a permanent part of that particular record.
So you're talking about notes. Can you give me an example or?
Through the years, we've done a number of notes or memos to the file. They are not part of the resolution. And I think it became an issue with the property out on Shore Road. Our planner is pretty sure she saw one. I'm pretty sure that the board approval when I was still on the board all those years ago.
Yeah, I was on.
And we're not finding it. I think if it were made a part of the resolution as an addendum even, we would have found it and known for sure whether the board had already said we didn't want to do that, which, by the way, is what I think happened. But I don't. I've got so many meetings, and I've started getting rid of them because I got way too much paper in my house, and that's one of my goals, to get rid of all the excess paper. So I can't look to my resources, and it's not showing where we would expect it to. And I just think the town is served better if we formalize that process and make it either a revised resolution or an addendum to the resolution, but something that gives it the same legal weight.
That's reasonable.
Reasonably.
Yep.
My question is, what type of notes to the file are they, though? Could you just give kind of an example?
We've agreed to minor changes in a plan, and it's gone in as a note to the file. There have been cases where it's the opposite, and we've said, look, we've agreed to this, we're not going any further.
So you say we, meaning the board?
But that kind of thing,
We, the planning board?
yes.
Okay.
And we did it with Kathy for years, and I'm not sure, I think we started with Diane Sperman. But it's been a long-held practice, but legally, I don't, since you're not part of the resolution, I don't think they get treated the same, and I think they should be. So I
Okay.
think either an addendum or a revised resolution would be the answer.
Yeah.
It was meant to make less work because technically resolutions are supposed to be reviewed by legal. And it's not that I want to give our legal office, especially when we don't even have an assistant to our attorney. But I think some of those notes are too important to be not counted.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. What I want, my point was that, what I was trying to get across is that I don't think it's just conditions. Conditions aren't the approval, they're only part of the approval. And if the lack of conditions does not mean anything, right? The only time we really need an ideal resolution would have zero conditions on it. It would be referencing the map that was submitted, and that's the Bible. That's the standard, and that comes from, my many years of engineering and reviewing drawings, facility and equipment drawings, and configuration control. So if something were to change, then to your point, it would, come back to have a revised plan and make sure that whatever revisions we agreed, and if we agreed to that revision and vote on it, then maybe it requires an updated resolution or a refiling at the Schenectady County Clerk's Office, whatever changes may be encountered, so that you maintain control of the documents right through cradle to grave. If we sign off on a plat, drawing, whatever you want to call it, map, from a planning board aspect, that's the gold standard. Now, water, sewer, and engineering signs off. If there's a problem where the water line has to divert because they hit bedrock or some other reason, my view is that doesn't have to come back to the planning board. That's what the town engineer is for. That doesn't change the big picture of what was approved. Unless obviously the water line was going to impact wetlands mitigation or some other serious issue. If there's none of those issues, I'd leave it to the town engineering to address the problem, the sewer lines, where it's got to go, or whether it's a grinder pump versus gravity or whatever, I think that's reasonable. But if it's something that's on the drawing, they got to relocate or change setback or change a building or something because of it, then it would have to come back to this board, is my view.
But Chairman Wash, since you asked it, the scenario the one previous you just used with the engineering department. So let's say some reality of the site causes an engineering aspect of the plan to change. Is there going to be a new set of drawings that get documented, or a parallel set of drawings that are just engineering drawings? Or
So rarely do the reference site plan approval drawings get built to, unless they're very simple.
right?
Because between planning board approval and construction, there's a for construction drawing set. And there are subtle changes to those drawings.
Perfect. That's all, Laura. So you answered my question. So
Yeah.
there is a construction drawing set that in general will be different from that in general can be different from what the planning board has approved.
Yeah, so recently a case was brought to the planning board for the removal of a shed in a subdivision that the planning board had approved for the removal to keep the shed, and the planning board had approved on the plan the removal of the shed. My determination is that does not come back to the planning board because when the planning board looks at subdivisions, you're looking at a land determination. Once that land is subdivided, things change, like the building footprints can change, the sewer and water laterals can change, driveway configurations can change, but the subdivision land itself is really what you guys are taking action on. And so if the person wants to do something different to the interior of his land after it's been subdivided, then it goes to the zoning board.
Goes to the zoning board if it requires a
If it
variance.
requars a
If it
variance.
doesn't
Otherwise,
require a
they can
variance,
just
it
go-
wouldn't even go to the
If it
zoning
doesn't
board.
require
Correct.
variance, it's a building department thing.
It tends to be a building department thing. And so I think the highlight, I mean, whether you agree with my determination or not, is that if you feel during subdivision that a location or a future building permit could have problems, you would want to put that as a condition in the subdivision to guide.
So just going off of that, I wanted to touch on conditional approval. So it's going to depend on what the application is, whether it's a subdivision application or a site plan application. It's well within this board's purview to make conditional approvals, as this board is aware, often does it. But the case law and the statutes actually, I think it's more in the case law on this particular issue, but you have to stay within, like if you're doing a site plan, your conditions on site plan can have to do with the details of the buildings themselves and the landscaping and things of that nature. If it's subdivision, it has to be more related to the lots and, the terrain of the lots. Are these buildable lots? Does this work with the general nature of the neighborhood? And you can make conditional, I made a list from what I did some research on this just to see what some of the case law had said as far as what types of conditions for subdivision particularly. So subdivision review regulates design and improvements of the entire neighborhood. But you look at the lots and the neighborhood as a whole. So possible review elements include lot configuration, landscaping, drainage, street pattern, service access, streets and roads, utility installation, sidewalks and curbs. They would be looked at, the case law from what I was looking at, both individually and then as a package. So the lots in particular, and then because you're going to have minor subdivisions and major subdivisions. So depending on what that subdivision entails is going to depend on, if there's 2 lots to look at or 18 lots to look at. When you get into things like the facade or the style or design of the building, that's a site plan issue. So those types of conditions can only be placed on an approval for a site plan, whereas the other conditions that I just listed would be more in line with the subdivision. So the courts are pretty clear about that as far as what is actually enforceable. It has to be reasonable and related to the review that the planning board's doing, whether it be subdivision, site plan, or other. And things like that one of the things that came up, which I wasn't actually expecting, but as subdivision regulates design and improvements, it can't be used to establish things like minimum lot sizes and dimension requirements or uses of property, as those are within the zoning board's purview. So I mean, I just wanted to provide that detail because I wasn't expecting to get into the detail of the one particular project, but just as a whole and in general, when making those conditions, you're well within your right to do that. But the idea with the conditional approval is that they have 180 days to satisfy those conditions. They can apply for extensions, 290-day extensions, but the idea is that those conditions will be fulfilled before that final plat or final approval is given. So that, I mean, conditions are with that in mind, that they're going to be able to establish those conditions and fulfill those conditions before getting final approval.
See, one of the things that we do, though, when we have a subdivision come in front of this board, and many times I believe I've seen it, we always take a look at, does it make sense, right? Shape of the lot, all the standard things we always look at, size of the lot, is there variances required based on the size of the lot, frontage, et cetera, based on the proposal of the subdivision. But we also look at the lot as a whole, what's existing there, and whether we have an opportunity to bring the lot into compliance, right? Which we do. And that's what, that's kind of what brought this to my attention, right? There's a case where there was discussion and it was on the map that there would be a structure that would be removed as part of our approval. And then later on, they changed their mind. And instead of coming back to this board, it went directly to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I hear what you're saying, you're the attorney, but to me, it would make more sense that they're not complying with the subdivision that we gave. They would come back to this board first for a revised subdivision, and because they didn't follow what they said. And then what we would do, we'd still have to they still end up with the ZBA if they wanted to keep it, but we would make a recommendation to the ZBA, like we did with the original subdivision, because there was like a lot width, right? I think there was a lot width area variance that we made a recommendation on for this project I'm talking about. So I would think it would come back through, and then what would happen, the ZBA, we'd make a recommendation, maybe our recommendation is, hey, it's okay to keep it, you got a good reason, or maybe a recommendation not to keep it, then it would go to the ZBA, and then they would be the authority to make that decision. So we'd have an opportunity to give our opinion, That's my view. Maybe it seems pretty easy, but I guess I'm missing something.
I mean, it sounds like maybe it's more of a jurisdictional thing. So this has come up for like the 5th time tonight, right? So what I'm understanding from the town attorney is that when we're looking at a site plan, we can only make site plan type conditions. And when we're looking at a subdivision, we can only make subdivision type conditions. And so maybe the presence of a building on a subdivision application, is it that we don't have the jurisdiction to address the presence or absence of a structure on the property? Is that
I
what
think
it is?
ideally, probably going forward, it could have been handled a couple different ways if it was not. I understand what Chairman's saying as far as making it become compliant, whether it be a variance or otherwise. And if the applicant is stating that something is going to be removed, you can make it a conditional of the final that it be removed prior to signing off on the final, or a condition that they get a variance. But either way, then it's dealt with before final versus dealing with it if they change their mind later on.
So the problem I have is trying to read the crystal ball and make everything in condition that this board wants. And to me, when you have a reference, a drawing, and the body of the resolution, points you to that, I don't think you need a specific, again, an ideal resolution would have 0 conditions,
But the idea in that particular case is that it may have been outside of this board's purview to make it a condition other than the fact that it was not in compliance. Like if it didn't require the variances, this board wouldn't have been able to make it a condition that that building be removed
Correct.
in order to get a
And we
site
wouldn't have,
plan.
and we wouldn't have gone there because we had no reason to make it be compliant because it was compliant. Yeah.
I mean, the crystal ball is just that if there's something that requires a variance that's on the property when it comes before this board, then we can make it either a condition that it be removed or that it get a variance before final approval. I don't think that that's common. I don't think we run into that often, but that could be moving forward.
I saw there's some other subdivisions where we've made recommendations, or it was included in the drawing, probably on Pierce Road, there's other ones, the long lot, I can't remember, what's her name? I can't remember the name, but it's irrelevant, but, you know.
But there's another piece too that Chairman Walsh brought up when, I don't know the specific case you guys are talking about. I'm sure if I thought about it for a while, I could remember. But there's also something that comes out with the dialogue and the applicant. And the applicant raises it, okay, yeah, I can do this. And I think at that point, the planning board does have a jurisdiction to be able to, as long as it's not too far field, right? As long as that's something.
Right, it has to be reasonably related
Right,
to either the
right. So
subdivision or
something
the
like,
site
oh,
plan or
I'll-
whatever the
yes,
case
we'll
may be.
we'll take the structure down, right? And we can say.
And that's kind of my point, and I'm not trying to, you know, I appreciate what everybody does, but to me, and that we had that discussion, and it was on the map, and I signed it, and it was coming down, you know, it's not a condition, it just seemed to be very straightforward. I was kind of surprised it didn't come back through this board again. That's kind of where I'm at, you know. So we'll just, you know, it's water over the dam, right? It's already happened, but on a go-forward basis, I'm going to take a hard look at the things that wants and make sure that they have conditions on them. I guess is what I've learned out of it. And because we can't go back in time, but we're going to take a hard look at it. And there's, you know, there's some outstanding subdivisions right now. I think that, you just assume, okay, what if that applicant decides now to keep that? Well, there was not a condition. And I don't think that's where we want to be, that the applicant has an opportunity just to say, I changed my mind, I'm going to the zoning board of appeals. And that's where I don't want to be, you know? Yeah, that's all. So I just want to talk about that. So we'll start paying attention to resolutions and really being, really take a hard look at conditions. If there's something specific that we talk about or something specific that we've agreed to with the applicant or that we want, let's make sure we point it out so it doesn't come back later on that we weren't serious about it. Okay? Any other thoughts? Anybody? Okay.
I mean, just to recap, it's only a limited set of applications to the zoning board of appeals that would come in front of this board, right? If it's pertaining to.
Well, it's not just the zoning, it's any conditions I'm talking about. I mean, example, with the Goodyear thing, one condition was a storage container may be placed on the property. Well, it doesn't need to say that because when we gave approval, it was for them to place it. What the point of the condition was, the planning board and planning office will review it once it's in place to make sure we're comfortable with it, right? So if this applicant, this kind of covers where it's going to be placed because it says we place per the site plan, but we don't need to say that. We got the site plan tells us where it's going to be placed. That's my point. So if Goodyear were to say, hey, we submitted that drawing, but we ended up wanting to put it a little bit over this way. Well, no, it's not where you said you were going to put it. You know, you need to come back to the planning board. Now, if it doesn't require an area variance, where to put it still within the setbacks, it's probably a moot issue. It's probably no issue.
So let me ask you a question. On this specific thing with this, whatever the project was where a structure was taken down, was that a site plan application in front of us or was it a subdivision?
It was a subdivision.
There's a difference between a site.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just using this as an example because.
Like on this one, it was a site plan application.
Yeah.
So I think this one should clearly come back before us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a lot more jurisdiction
Right.
on exact placement of structures and.
And it's in the drawing, is
anything
my
on
point.
site plan.
Right.
It's referenced in the drawing. We don't even need to say it needs to
Right.
be
So I
placed
guess
as shown.
this other issue was the
Yeah.
fact that there was a subdivision matter in front of us.
Yeah.
And there was a site plan looking like condition.
Yeah, and there was a change from the applicant. It's changed their mind, you know, which I think this board would have had a condition if we known that, if that was important, you know, to me it was important. Whether it was important to everybody, it would have been a condition. And I don't know whether the condition would have been enforceable from what you're saying or not, because we had that.
Well, that's where I was going with, if that was something, if there's an application before this board and it's something where this board knows that a variance is going to be needed in order to get the parcel to become in compliance with their zoning, then my recommendation going forward would be to make it conditional either on the removal of whatever that is. The condition should be to make it become compliant, whether it's removal, whether it's moving
moving it,
something,
or
whether
moving
it's
it.
getting a variance or whatever it is. It should just be.
But to Chairman Walsh's point, if we referenced, so I'm assuming we didn't have a condition that said remove it, but we signed a drawing that had it removed. So isn't that effectively the same as having a condition
That's my
that says
point.
it's removed?
That was the point that he was making.
Right.
Yes.
Laura and I made the determination that because it wasn't, because to what Laura's point was earlier, is things change after. I mean, this could be 2 years after the subdivision, or it could be even longer,
Yeah.
and things change afterwards. And the issue was one of zoning and that it needed an area variance. There wasn't anything conditionally that said that the subdivision couldn't move forward if the garage or shed or whatever it was, wasn't removed. And then that goes to the next point, was when I was trying to put together something on conditions for the board, I came across the case law that was very specific, that conditions of site plan and conditions of subdivision are two different types of conditions. They have to be reasonably related to what it is that the board
But we could
is
also be
approving.
conservative, because if the applicant, made changes, he could came back to the board and we could make a recommendation to the zoning board of appeals and give them our input on that. It's just a process thing. He still would have ended up ZBA, but we would have given an opportunity to
Pass through.
pass
mean-
through,
Yeah.
because it's a change of what we thought where we're at. That's all. And, again, it still would end up to ZBA, just a matter of whether it went with a recommendation from this board or not. That's all.
And it seems like maybe regardless of your presence or absence of conditions, when we issue a resolution referencing a drawing, my expectation as a board member is that the drawing we're referencing is the thing that we're approving.
So guys,
So,
there's a big difference between subdivision and site plan, right? So Amador has a 66 single-family home subdivision that's going in right now. You looked at a subdivision that showed every single-family home showing as fitting inside that subdivision and needing no area variances. They have requested area variances, like you are don't have a crystal ball, and they will trigger area variances when they're built. There's no way for you to know, like even the footprint of the addition on this particular subdivision changed when the building. When you guys are looking at subdivisions, it's in the existing structures, but you don't have the jurisdiction to say all of these structures are never going to have area variances in the future.
Yeah.
Related to the subdivision line through that you want to make sure is taken care of, be more careful about the review. But I stand by anybody who needs to do divided at 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, they do not need to return to the subdivision process with the planning board. It is an area variance process at that
I
point.
see your point.
Right. So my point is, let's be careful.
Be careful.
Yeah, if there is,
You could also have one condition, and probably wouldn't be popular, but we could have a condition that says the condition of the approval is that everything entailed in this resolution, including the map, makes up the condition.
I don't think you can.
Yeah, no, no. I don't
Well,
think-
I know,
no,
but
no.
it's a condition.
I know, I mean, I think.
Because my point, I think, because coming from an engineering background, and I know there's a few of us, is that when you have a drawing, that's the gold standard. That's what and there's a change that needs to be updated. And if it's on, especially if it's on file, for instance, this person now has got the permission to keep that building. So technically what's on file at the county clerk's office is not correct.
What's on file at the county clerk's office are 2 lots, right? It doesn't even show a building on the other lot. People aren't going to go to the county clerk's office and be like, is that shed allowed to be there? They're going to go and be like, what's the width
That
of
map
the
that
lot?
the reference map that won't be on the county clerk's office.
The subdivision is the legal right to subdivide land. You are looking, and a subdivision is a point in time. When you approve that subdivision, the point in time is what is existing on those lots. It doesn't have any bearing. Somebody could go in and completely tear down that whole structure that received an area variance during that subdivision. See, I don't want that house. I don't like it.
Yeah.
They have absolutely there's no approvals that they would have to go through planning board or zoning board to just take that whole house down, put a driveway somewhere else and put a house somewhere else.
That's right, as long as it's compliant, or they go to the ZBA.
Or they go to the
Right.
ZBA. They could take that shed down and then put a shed back in the exact same spot. What people are looking at when they go to the county clerk's office on subdivision is where those lines are for the land. Because it's just a point in time of what's existing on that property. And you actually don't even have to show those buildings necessarily, because they change. When you guys are doing subdivision, you're doing subdivision of the land. When you guys are doing site plan, you are looking at the exact location of accessory structures. You're looking at the colors of the accessory structures. If they want to change it from black to blue, they have to come here. There's a big difference between site plan and subdivision.
All right. So bottom line is that when we have something, if it's important to us, we can make sure it's a condition. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yep.
Related to that.
to the next
Yeah,
section.
well, it is.
And
If people come in, they want
the
to
key thing-
subdivide and say,
yeah,
hey,
the
you
key
want
thing
to
is bring it into compliance.
Yeah,
That's
bring it in
key.
compliance. That's what
Okay,
we
it's
always
a-
do.
It's a good learning.
It's a good
Good
learning.
learning. Thanks for the research.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Last question, and I can't get this to work again.
Uh,
It was and now it's not. If one of the conditions, say for subdivision, is to remove a building because we deem it's believed to be a hazard, should we make sure the county agrees with us, county health?
No,
Is it enforceable or?
the planning board wouldn't make a determination that a building was a hazard. That is a building inspector,
Right.
building department determination. And if it is a hazard, then it's required to be taken down in a certain time frame. But even if you look at our adoption of the historical code, it's not the historical committee or the planning board's determination that something's hazardous. It's always the building inspector.
Well, we have, there was wanted it down and the applicant agreed to it. I think it was a subdivision. And I don't remember ultimately if we already had something from the building inspector or not. But those issues do occasionally arise where it's deemed a hazard.
If it's deemed a hazard to health and human public safety, the building is coming down or site plan because it's a health and safety issue at building department level.
Probably be best off just making sure that they're aware of it.
Well, I mean, they may have to end up doing a backward site plan, but if a building is hazardous, truly hazardous, time frame is to take it down,
Right.
right? It doesn't go for approvals and then get taken down.
Yeah, I'm good
If
with
you
all
don't
that.
like it,
Yeah.
it can go through approvals, but if it's truly hazardous, it's a building department issue.
Again, my point was just, let's make sure we get what we expect, get what we want, and it's documented properly. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay? All right, any other comments? All right, motion to adjourn?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Scrivby Tennis and seconded by Mr. Khan, even though Chris had his hand up too, but thanks, Chris. All right, so all those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned. Good night. Appreciate it.
Chris, you were